You know, when things aren't going right, it's easy for us to look for someone or something to point the blame at. It's kind of like it's like the idea of having a barrel of a gun. We always want to point it outward, and we never want to point it towards ourselves. But the thing is, when you blame others, you blame situations, or you want to project your negative emotions you feel because of an event at someone or something, what you're essentially doing is you're telling yourself that I've done nothing wrong, this is not my fault, and I don't have to look at anything I did. Now, in certain situations, like for example, dealing with like war or natural disasters or something extreme, then yeah, sometimes shit happens and you can't help it. But in most situations in our everyday life, if we look at all the participants in our situations and what happens, usually it's a 50-50 arrangement. 50% of what's happening and 50% of a choice we made or we failed to make. So whenever you find yourself feeling an emotion, feeling triggered because something's not going your way or something didn't turn out right or some situation is happening, you're not happy with it, instead of pointing that gun outward where you're going to blame the person, the situation, the fucking alignment of the stars, whatever it is you want to blame, take a second to reflect on what you have done or what you could have done differently to avoid the situation in the first place. When you start to shift your mindset away from blame and you start to take responsibility, then what you're essentially doing is you're also empowering yourself to change. Because the unspoken rule of blaming someone or staying in a victim mentality is not my fault. Therefore, I don't have to do anything differently because I'm a poor little victim and it's this other person, this other thing's the bad one. And poor little me, it happened to me over here, which is not always the case in a lot of scenarios. So if you look at the choices you made, they're probably contributed to the situation you're in. If you look at the choices you failed to make, they probably contributed to the situation you're in. So it goes both ways. The more you can look at situations with the eye of what could I have done differently or what did I do to get myself here and how can I change this, the more empowered you're going to be to actually get yourself out of these situations and see real changes. Because again, it's very easy to point that negative emotional energy outward, but it's very difficult to point it in towards ourselves. And when you do with an air of caution and with the intention of reflection and self-improvement. Don't just do it to beat yourself up and feel bad about it, but not do anything differently to change it or make the situation any better.